Cher's hot stuff, and it gave Tom Ford star status.
I think he's really revamped it.
Turned it round.
Yeah, turned it round, made it a lot more trendy and a lot more what people want to be seen in.
I use some of his stuff. I use some of the stuff for that shoot with David. It's just amazing stuff.
What was so interesting with Tom was that he made man woman's equal. They were both equally objects of desire.
A male object who was soon to become known as a metrosexual, a heterosexual with a tardy twist, whose skin and hair matter to him, and who knows more about the latest trends than his wife does.
Feast on the finest on L.I. Savor.
This is a perfect dish.
From top cooks to culinary fairs.
Oh, I like this kind of cooking.
I love a party.
From flavorless to fantastic.
I don't like this.
Satisfy your appetite with the luscious best. It's more than lifestyle. It's L.I. Life inspired.
This Lunar New Year, indulge in delicious festive fare. Get enchanted. Take on a culinary journey across Korea with actress Choi Ji-woo. Men at work. Young hunks take on an entrepreneurial edge, setting up a pizza parlor. China versus France. Two nations' top chefs battle it out in kitchen showdowns.
Winner goes to...
Take the trip. Stop over travelers Jason Godfrey and Serena Huang unravel North Asia.
One of the most exciting cities in the world.
Satisfy your taste buds. Feast upon the ever-delectable cuisine of Taiwan. Delight yourself this Chinese New Year.
There are more things to do, more places to eat at, and more people to see all the time.
Exclusively on L.I. Life Inspired.
Let L.I. help you realize your own potential for true physical, mental, and spiritual health. I'm Yumi Lee, and this is L.I. Life Inspired.
At LVMH, Bernard Arnault had learned a few lessons from Milan's spectacular recovery. At the head of his three main jewels, Dior, Givenchy, and Louis Vuitton, he brought in fresh blood from abroad by lining up John Galliano, Alexander McQueen, and Marc Jacobs one after the other. They were all given the same specification: apply shock treatment to the aging fashion houses.
The Galliano fashion shows were just to die for. They were just so full of talent and magic.
John Galliano is a couturier, and his sensibility is that of a couturier. This is a fragile poet, an endangered species in the fashion world.
Having earned unanimous recognition for a sense of mixing after leaving St. Martin's in London, eccentric dandy John Galliano decided to settle in Paris. He gave shows there under his own name and established a reputation for himself thanks to his punk-style remixes of French grand couture, including the famous bias cut. Bernard Arnault could no longer ignore him. Having tested him out for a year at Givenchy, he entrusted him with the pearl of the LVMH group, the House of Dior.
No, he said, was I sure that I was mentally and well, physically, was I ready for it? Did I know what I was doing? We talked very seriously about it, and he said, Jack, go for it, do it. Go, go, go.
Galliano entered Dior in the limelight. His very first dress for the fashion house was worn by Lady Diana in 1997 on the occasion of a 50-year Dior retrospective at the Metropolitan Museum of New York. That day, Bernard Arnault reformatted the DNA of Dior along two lines: modernity, embodied by John Galliano, and tradition, embodied by the retrospective. He didn't forget trade, however, as the princess, in the guise of a first-class sales representative, was also carrying the Dior quilted bag, which subsequently sold in thousands and even bore her name.
He had a totally global vision of his universe and of the story he wanted to tell. His was an extraordinary universe, which was very precise. He lived his fashion. For him, it was his life. And at the same time, there was the madness. It's a paradox, really, because the guy always had a precision and a madness that went hand in hand.
That wasn't what sold. What did sell was the butterfly effect. From an earthquake on the runways in Paris, someone would buy a lipstick in Tokyo. There was an incredible repercussion in terms of impact in the press and through media coverage. It was a magnificent marketing machine, an incredible textbook case.
Thanks to his sensational beginnings, John Galliano put Dior back on top, notching up outstanding fashion shows for both Dior and for his own fashion house Galliano, also financed by LVMH. He was adept at creating famous images that generated sales. His challenge from now on was to continue creating events so that Dior remained the most spectacular, prominent fashion house, the most desirable.
I design for individuals, not lifestyle, you know. I'm not about lifestyle, I'm about individualism. You know, it's nothing about you buy a McQueen and you buy the bed linen and the perfume. It's not like that. You buy the attitude of McQueen.
The bad boy of fashion, a sexy and urban underground agitator, Alexander McQueen came from the same mold as John Galliano, but in a darker version.
He wasn't English, but Scottish, in fact. That implies independence and a culture of violence. He had a rather proletarian background, you could say.
After St. Martin's School of Art in London, Lee McQueen went to serve an apprenticeship in the workshops of Savile Row before launching his own fashion house, to which he gave his second name, Alexander, in order to keep his character and his label separate. Bernard Arnault also believed in the association between McQueen's extravagant talent and the haute couture world, and he entrusted him with Givenchy.
The first fashion show was at the Beaux-Arts. It was based on gold. I think he did Givenchy because he needed the money to keep his own company going, his own label. I honestly think he was bored at Givenchy. It absolutely wasn't what he wanted. He advanced much more in his own label. He just took the money.
At Givenchy, Alexander McQueen designed a series of exceptional clothes. But being wildly independent, he found it difficult to accept the constraints placed upon him by the job of creative director at a house like Givenchy. He was never really at one with the Givenchy universe.
When there's so much poverty and sickness and unhealth in the world, you don't want to flaunt your wealth by gratuitous, like throwing your money over dresses. People who buy couture should buy it privately and buy it because they love the craftsmanship that goes into making the couture.
Alexander McQueen escaped. At the first opportunity he got, he escaped. He didn't manage to stick it out for very long.
Bernard Arnault's feat with Louis Vuitton was a little different. Prada's jackpot, dressing their accessories with ready-to-wear, had given him a few ideas. To wake up Vuitton, he called upon New Yorker Marc Jacobs, who made a name for himself at Perry Ellis.
Fashion to me is something that has to change every single season because Clothing never changes. It's always tradition, but fashion has to change, whether it's just color or lengths or whatever. It's just something that has to change.
With the label that bore his name, Marc Jacobs showed he certainly knew how to create clothes for shops. His mission at Louis Vuitton was to invent a ready-to-wear range from nothing and move the leather goods leader into the realms of a major luxury brand.
It's like the American flag, Marilyn Monroe. You see this monogram and you know exactly, it's like an icon. We didn't have a master plan. We didn't set out to say, this is our woman, this is how she's dressed. Instead of like sort of disguising things, we embrace them. So whatever the instinct is for a particular season, whatever turns us on at a moment, it either stays that way or it evolves into something else. But whatever it becomes, we go for full on, unafraid.
Instead of doing his utmost to make people forget the famous monogram, Marc Jacobs placed it at the heart of his ready-to-wear. And his first hit was with the bags. He even gave the famous original canvas a makeover in shiny pop colors, which initially surprised people before becoming all the rage.
It's fantastic. Thank you.
It was sublime.
Oh, ça va?
Pretty, wasn't it? The handbags were great. Now we'll have to make 500,000 of them.
Lifestyle for me is about finding the perfect balance between work and leisure, and doing all the things that make you extremely happy. It's what sweeps you, it's what takes you away. Get up close with lifestyle.
French chefs, Chinese chefs, a fiery competition between two countries. Let the kitchen games begin.
Pick up, pick up, pick up.
The Battle of the Orient. Who shall emerge victorious and stand tall as greatest chefs?
Are you ready?
Ready. Greatest Chefs premieres Tuesday, 14th January, 9 p.m. exclusively.